Hey there, welcome to episode 138 of the Quaggling Sand audio program. I'm your host, as usual, Dan Hugo. We're recording this at 8:33 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in the Greater Vegas area on Wednesday, July 1, 2026. It feels like just yesterday this nation was on the precipice of forming. The Declaration of Independence soon to be signed. What? How did we get here? Anyway, today's title and topic, the Def Leppard concert. If you're not familiar with Def Leppard, you shouldn't be listening to this anyway. You're probably too young. The Quaggling Sand audio program is a walk down memory lane. It's recollections, stories, tales, whatever comes to mind. It's mostly for posterity. It's monologues, it's stories, audio essays, no guests, nor will there be, I would think. I never say never, but why? So quaggling sand, the term itself is one I coined when I was very young. It refers to something you probably know better as pins and needles. Quaggling sand is the preferred term. Ask any medical professional. On that note, hopefully wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a brief summary, which I'll read to you. And the show links, there are two of the usuals, and then there's two about the Def Leppard tour and the venue. So let's get started so we can get finished and kick off July in proper fashion. The summary, the Def Leppard Hysteria Tour was something of a big deal back then, so why not go and see them when they were in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area, in August of 1988? Indeed, why not? The links, as usual, quagglingsand.com, quaggling spelled like it sounds, Quoggling, sand, S-A-N-D, no space, .com. Profile page linking everything. I've had it for more than 5 years. The show is not about extracting your pennies, nickels, no pennies anymore, nickels, dimes, quarters, dollars. You are more than welcome to, but you are not expected to pay for anything. Buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. If you would like to, you can click on some affiliate links, which are towards the bottom of that profile page. Up at the top, there's a little bit of biographical information. There are links to all of my various productions, mostly audio, as far as I know, and then some project links. It's a one-stop shop. It's the reason I've kept this around. It's basically a free-form link tree, a link in bio, right? Not to mention the weekly Monday morning audio program, Buy Me an Update, named for this site, used to be published exclusively at buymeacoffee.com/danhugo/posts. But buymeacoffee.com is not a not a podcasting website, so it doesn't do RSS feeds and so on. But I'd still publish it there first. It is the namesake. And then Buy Me an Update is published through the usual channels 2 hours later. You can check that out if you want. Same goes for Coffee Solo, ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/danhugo/posts. That one's kind of tucked away, but you can still find it, obviously. It's linked from the buymeacoffee.com/danhugo profile page. And the Hysteria Tour, there's a Def Leppard UK website that has the whole tour calendar for 87 and 88. This one happens to be on 1988 page 2, hence tour 1988-2.html. Compton Terrace, well, the show is on August 21st if you want to scroll down, way down. I guess this busy tour probably explains, maybe, the ending of the story. Not really. Well, I guess, they probably had to go. They probably were hitting the road immediately. No rest in the same city. No rest twice in the same city. The Compton Terrace venue is no longer. So there's a Wikipedia page with some information about that, so you'll have some idea where it was the operative word. That's it. Those are the links. So the stream of consciousness story, I normally prepare sections and 3 bullet items, the rule of 3 and all that. But this time I've jotted down some notes, so I'll try to tell the story and as I would tell it. But I do have snippets in bullet list form. So let's get started. I was working at McDonald's at the time. I was friends with everybody at McDonald's for the most part, give or take. And and Def Leppard was very popular there. So were the Beastie Boys. That's a different story. I never went and saw them in concert. The opportunity to see Def Leppard before school started again, for those of us still in high school, came upon us, and we said, hey, we should go see the show. So it would be myself. It would be my McDonald's coworker, Shannon. I think her sister, April, was also working at McDonald's at this point. Another coworker and friend of Shannon's, Linda. Another coworker who everybody met at McDonald's. So not still a friend, but not a long-time friend or anything. Amy. And then Shannon's very long-time friend, Michelle. And Michelle would be driving because she had the biggest car. Yay. April was an accomplished practitioner of karate. In fact, Weishiru karate. If you're in the Phoenix area, that might sound familiar. And she was a very violent competitor. Not a violent person, but a violent competitor. She had to compete against male opponents. And even then, she would exercise zero restraint and very little control whatsoever, occasionally injuring them. And maybe too happy about that. I don't know who her sensei was at the dojo there, but I don't know what they were teaching. It wasn't Mr. Miyagi, to be sure. Fearless, but not in a good way, not in a great way. I mean, that's how life goes. Extreme traffic in the monsoon season made for a very slow trip to Compton Terrace from the Phoenix area. We had all met up at Shannon's house except for Amy, and Michelle drove everybody. It was pretty hot. It wasn't June hot. The monsoons would tend to bring the temperature down a little bit, but increase the humidity. Occasionally there would be rain, lightning storms occasionally as well. We have monsoons in Vegas also. They are the joy of living in the desert, I guess. It was late evening with the sun still low in the sky as we were en route, stopped in long car trains. It was just dark. It was just dark when we finally reached the site. So the sun had set. It was dark. That puts the time probably around 7 or 8 p.m. 7? We'll call it 7. It wasn't June. It was August. So probably 7-ish. We got there into the opening act, so we could hear them playing. It was, I don't know how many opening acts there were, but they were playing. We were missing them. And that was merely getting into the parking lot. Here's a good time to mention, maybe remind, that the monsoon season in the Phoenix area was all about humid and occasional rain, as I said, and Compton Terrace had a dirt parking lot. Luckily, it had not rained on that day, or in general, it was not slip sliding mud, but it was not dry dirt either. So it was a little bit muddy. Not too bad, but that doesn't really factor into this other than it's just another thing. Of course, mud has a weird smell to it, but arriving late, of course, we had a bit of a walk. We were not parked right up near the entrance. Through that mud to the gate to get into the concert itself. The parking lot was actually crowded with people who were either pre-partying, I guess, or maybe they just listened to the concert from the parking lot. Who knows? There was a lot of people milling around though, at their cars. So it wasn't like they were just in a little crowd hanging out. We made it to the gate, presented our tickets, and entered the concert. We were just beginning. We were not there yet because we had reserved seating tickets. How lucky were we? And the reserved seating section was close to the stage, of course. Between us and our seats over there, a sea of people in the general seating area, which was grass and those people. So it was just sort of a not a mess of people, a little bit of chaos. There's no seating. People would spread out a blanket or whatever on the grass. The grass was luckily not too wet, so not too slippery, but it's still humid. So we made our way. We made it to the reserve seating section through the general. There were staffers there, security, I guess. So they checked our tickets. Def Leppard was mid-song, so we were in the beginning of the actual Def Leppard performance. But they probably played like 2 or 3 songs before we got to our seats, but we could obviously hear them, so that was not so bad. We hadn't missed too much of the show, so that was good. We did, though, lose Michelle to the crowd somewhere. She had her ticket, so we assumed that she would make her way eventually, and that would be that. Oh, assumptions. That reserved seating crowd was packed. It was packed, 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 and they were not interested in making a hole, as they say, clearing a path. I think we had something like 12th row towards stage right, with wall after wall of Def Leppard fans not really paying attention to us trying to get to our seats. Hey, we were missing the show. It's our problem, right? This is where April's confidence kicked in, literally shoving people who did not let us through and staring them down if they gave her attitude. We were simply attempting to get to our seats, but this was one of those half rights situations, maybe. Like, we do want to get to our seats, but we also don't want to get assaulted by a mob. You're with her? No. So we got to our seats. Our seats were there waiting for us, in fact, which was nice. Now, they did have security in the reserved seating section, checking tickets, whatnot, so somebody would have probably been kicked out or shooed away, I guess. Who knows? But our seats were there. They were not really seats. It was more like long aluminum picnic benches, or maybe something you would see at a stadium, like not comfortable movie seats, or some concert venues have more of that style of seating. Now, these were very basic, basically, like I said, like a picnic bench or park bench, and no backs, and numbers spray painted for each of the seat numbers. So it worked. We weren't really sitting anyway. There were bouncers there to keep some order, I guess, bouncer security. But we had finally arrived, and we were able to now take in the show. And the show was good. The show was good. The Hysteria Tour had a laser show, which was not too bad. They lowered I want to say it was like a white circle with black. It was like a white on black. So the corners of the square banner were black. And they had a laser put on some animations that were coincident with the Hysteria album and so on. Def Leppard artwork and their band logo and so on kind of had maybe a neonish look. So the laser show kind of complemented that. I believe it was a green laser. So it was 1988. So the show was good. And you can hear the playlist. No, you can see the playlist. Did they have, let me click on the actual link. The Def Leppard UK website does have the set list. I think I said playlist, set list from August 21st. Oh, this was the last show. Is that right? No. No, they were heading to Jackson, Mississippi. So September 7th. So they had plenty of time. So I don't know why. Anyway, when we get to the end of the story, I guess I can take that back. They were in a mad rush to take a break, I guess. Anyway, August 21st, 1988, Phoenix, Arizona, USA, Compton Terrace. The set list, they do have, and they are, no, I don't know if these are, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I'm going to guess, now this is going by distant memory. I remember being in our seats for Hysteria, which was apparently number 5 on the set list. So I think we were probably into the gates of the venue itself for the beginning of the actual Def Leppard set. So I think maybe we missed stage fright, but we were there. But I think we were in our seats by the time Hysteria was playing. So that gives some perspective. If you're not a Def Leppard fan, that probably means nothing. And I have to say, I don't listen to Def Leppard every day or anything. So I like Def Leppard. They're fine. They're good. The drummer was kind of impressive. I mean, yeah. Anyway, that reserved seating crowd was packed. I think we had something like 12th row, like I said. So it was a good crowd. They were into the show, and there was no drama though, which was nice. So we were close enough to see everything, and it was generally it was a good time. It was a fun time. They did play some songs. I guess there's a breakdown here. So I said they played some songs from Pyromania also. In fact, they played 6 songs from Hysteria, 7 songs from Pyromania, and 1 song from High and Dry, which was their older album. There you go. Okay. Now, This is where the fun part really begins. Getting out of the reserved seating at the end of the show was a challenge, to say the least. You had to, the same negotiation of people coming in and getting to our seats was now done in reverse. So all the general admission people were closer to the gate. They could, kind of mill around, gather their belongings, start heading out. The people in reserved seating had to leave the reserved seating area and go into this now milling crowd that was heading for the exit. So it took a while. Getting back to the entrance was more of a challenge than just getting out of the reserved seating area, but that's the way it is. Getting to the car was an adventure in crowd navigation, to say the least, because now you have this massive crowd going through a small, relatively small gate area to get out into the parking lot, and then they're negotiating still moist, still not quite slippery mud, but not dry dirt. So negotiating all that, getting to their cars. Now you have to try to get out of the parking lot in a car. That is always, always, always the worst part of attending events like this. Total mayhem. And usually I'm going to get, well, I don't know for sure because we had another problem to deal with, but I'm going to guess that there was some minor traffic direction going on. Usually they'll guide people in so that they can fill up the parking lot. And so there's no, like people trying to take parking spaces randomly that'll block people in or out or whatever. So I think they were paying more attention coming into the venue, the parking lot, but it was all everybody for them on their own. Get out. Can't stay. You gotta, what is it? You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So, everybody was just sort of like, I'm getting out of here. So are we. Yeah, no, us first. But for us, the evening though was only just beginning because there was no Michelle. Turns out she wasn't even with us in the reserved seating. She didn't even, well, we'll find out later. We waited for a while. It was hot. There would be no getting out of the parking lot because everybody was doing that. And obviously, Michelle in her car would have the keys, but no Michelle, no keys, no car. Nobody was doing that in a timely manner, getting out of the parking lot. So we waited more. We had nowhere else to go. We were not in a rush. I'm going to guess we probably arrived around 7, like I said. So it was probably 10, 11, somewhere in there by the time we were in the parking lot. So we waited. We just waited. Eventually the parking lot was just about empty. We weren't the only car left, but it was empty enough. There was still no Michelle. There was no getting into the car, of course. It was time to explore our options. There were no phones back then. Well, there were no phones there in the parking lot either. There was no way for us to make a call from where we were. Obviously, there were no cell phones. The staff was not particularly interested in helping with our silly problem, since we had no emergency, and we were just loitering around at this point. Nobody was hassling us either, so it was just a matter of figuring out what we were going to do next. We had no cell phones, of course, and that will become that's one of those things where you're like, man, I wish we had cell phones. So what to do but walk toward a phone somewhere if we could find one. We did find someone who was helpful enough to point us in a direction. We had no GPS on our non-cell phones either, so we couldn't really. We had no plan. We had no plan B for what to do when we are going to be pedestrians. But they pointed us in a direction toward a phone, maybe a place to get some water to drink, because by now we had all gone a few hours without drinking anything. That's never a good idea. We had no idea, in fact, exactly where our destination was, only that it was that way. Luckily, once we got out of the parking lot onto the main road, it was a main road. We could see some lights in the distance. I'm going to say it was probably 2 miles, not outrageous, but there was no sidewalk. We were walking along a road that was still carrying traffic out of the concert area, along with normal traffic. It wasn't midnight yet, I don't think. But it was late, so it's late night traffic. It's dark, obviously. There are people trying to get to or from wherever. Who knows if they're paying attention? And again, no sidewalk. So that was fun. We were walking along a road that was still carrying this traffic and not moving too slowly. We walked against traffic, single file. Isn't that what they tell everybody to do back then? Toward what appeared to be, eventually we could see a structure It was the only thing with lights on in the distance. That was fun. It probably felt like much longer a walk than it really was. Like because when you're walking somewhere and you don't know exactly where you're going, every step is like, are we getting closer? It's hard to say, but I think it was probably 2 miles. It probably felt much longer. Probably felt much longer, but it was still long. I mean, 2 miles in traffic, opposing traffic. It was late. We were tired, a little bit curious about what Michelle was up to, and we had oncoming traffic to contend with all the way. So luckily, no incidents on that part of the journey. We did get to the convenience store. I don't know if it was a Circle K or a 7-Eleven. Don't remember. It might have just been like a truck stop or what are some of the, like AM, PM or something. Who knows? Who cares, really? It had fuel pumps and then the store itself. Luckily open for shopping. Sometimes convenience stores will shut the store area so you can only get gasoline or whatever else they're selling at the pumps, diesel or whatever. But we could go in. It wasn't closed, so that was nice. So we went in, got our water and Gatorade and whatever. It was air conditioned. That was nice. At this point, it was more humid than hot, so that was probably convenient and maybe a little bit safer. Nobody was going to keel over from heat frustration, probably. But now that we had come to a stop, we could rest, get some liquids in us, and enjoy the air conditioning in the store before we eventually went outside to get to the phone. If you don't know what a payphone is, you are also too young to be listening to this. I think everybody called home just to say, hey, we're late. A little bit of a drama. Shannon phoned her parents, and by now it was probably between, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it was 1 a.m. It's probably midnight-ish, somewhere in there. Maybe after, maybe closer to 1 a.m., somewhere in there by this time. And they actually agreed to venture out to rescue us in their large red pickup truck with the shell on the back. It would be a while, but that was nice of them, I think. We waited outside, kind of sprawled out on the sidewalk, off not right in front of the convenience store. That would probably have caused a problem. But we were just kind of like resting, like, oh, quite a night, and we're almost home. And again, it was not too hot at this point, but we drank our water and Gatorade, and then we just waited. There was still no Michelle, of course, but then she would have no idea where to find us anyway. So it's not like she was going to roll up in her car and say, hey, where have you been? We hoped for the best. Who knows? We had no idea. We did see the Def Leppard tour bus stop at the fuel pumps in the area. I think there were 2 buses, actually. But I remember a bus pulled up and somebody said, oh, that's the Def Leppard tour bus. It didn't have oh, pardon me. Hang on. Yeah, my voice went dry there for a second. Okay. It didn't have like a banner or what do you call that? A wrap, right? It wasn't emblazoned with Def Leppard logo or other such things. But I mean, who else is going to be in a tour bus down the street from Compton Terrace at this hour? So, and I was suggesting it seemed as though, not that they were in a rush, but like maybe they were getting on the road. So they didn't refuel. I don't even know if this place had the diesel fuel, and I'm guessing they were diesel-powered tour buses, diesel-fueled tour buses. But so I assume that they went and got some stuff from the grocery area of the convenience store. Somebody, some stagehand or whatever, groupie, who knows? But they didn't stay too long. Just long enough. But that was kind of funny. Like we really are the last ones here. Yeah, they probably did not grab 100 gallons of diesel while they were there. It wasn't that long. So who knows? And then they drove off. Both of Shannon's parents arrived in the big truck. They suggested I sit in the front with them. There was plenty of room. It was kind of like a small king cab, 1 door, not a 2-door, not a 4-door pickup truck, but there was room. So I sat in there. They had the air conditioning running while their daughters, Shannon and April, and then their other friends, Linda and Amy, and then no Michelle, were in the back. The front was air conditioned and comfortable. I don't know about the back. I don't think so. I never found out what the exact reason for this was. Probably some small retaliation for the inconvenience. Who knows? It was like that. They were, they They were an odd family. From what I understand, they are. No, I think at least one of the parents is no longer around, and I think I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? I haven't talked to Shannon in decades at this point, so who can say? But it was an odd family back then. Sort of entertaining. Sort of. That's a different story. Okay, so we were driving back, retelling the story up front about how we had to walk and where was Michelle and whatever happened to this and the mud and all that, the whole nine. April fending off any notion of attack or even people getting in our way. They probably found that funny. In the back, they were probably concerned about Michelle. Shannon and April had known Michelle for a very long time. So I'm going to guess that they were curious to know whatever happened to her, if she was okay. Amy was actually picked up on our way to Compton Terrace, so she didn't have a car. So she was the first to get dropped off, and then everybody else would head back to Shannon's house. And her parents knew exactly where that was because that's where Shannon's house was, where they lived. Amy was the first one to get dropped off, and it was not far from Shannon's house, Shannon's parents' house, but we drove through the neighborhood to get to her house. We drove through a cloud of mist. It seemed strange. It was almost like a morning haze, but it was not morning. But it was a haze of some sort over the neighborhood that was everywhere. That was weird. Headed to Shannon's house from there. It was a brief, mile or two, who knows. We unloaded and I got in my Volkswagen Bug, and headed home. Finally, about 2 or 3 miles away. At long last, the evening was over. It was a good time, though some of these parts were obviously unexpected and inconvenient. Still, memories are like that sometimes. It would become a story many, many years later. I've told the story here and there. I mean, in the scheme of things, it could have been much worse, much more dramatic. It was more, looking back, it's more kind of silly or maybe a little bit funny. Michelle woke up in a hospital, apparently shortly after we entered the gates to head towards our seats. She either fell down or was having difficulties with the heat or the humidity or whatever it was. So she headed off to a first aid tent, or she ended up at a first aid tent. Not really totally clear. It's been a while. So, and because we were making a beeline for our reserved seating, she was, everybody was kind of linking arms and like single file, let's get through this. April on the point, got through it and all that. But yeah, Michelle was not in the group, of course. And so she was in a first aid tent somehow. However she got there, and then she apparently really passed out there. She was fine, all things considered. A quick emergency room visit. Didn't have to stay there too long, but did stay there long enough to miss the entire concert, and I had to go back and retrieve her car the next day. But that was fine too. But on the news the next day, stories about a chlorine gas leak we know what's going on now. Remember that cloud of mist? Sitting up front, we had no sense of this driving through it. Air conditioner didn't pass through any chlorine smell, and the air was cool. I don't know if that helped or whatever, but some sort of filtration had taken place. And those in the back exposed to only a small amount thanks to the shell enclosing the bed of the pickup truck. So it's not like they were inhaling deeply. Nobody said, like when we arrived at Shannon's house, there was some itchy, but nobody connected that, and nobody was complaining of eyes burning or lungs burning. So it wasn't enough to do any real damage, not to diminish the, skin irritation that resulted, but it was minor, very minor, but it was noticeable. So that was about the extent of that. It could have been much worse. I suppose if there was no shell, or if we had been walking through the neighborhood and didn't know it was chlorine, and then you'd be breathing it for as long as it took you to get out of the cloud. But none of those things happened. School would start a few days later, right after Labor Day, as usual. I honestly don't know exactly which day it would have been in September then in 1988, but it was soon after. And it was the beginning of the end of my career, as it was the beginning of my senior year at Sunny Slope High School. My career at that school would come to an end a few months later, 9 months later, about. Sometime in May, school year. And I could begin my senior year with a story, and it would end with many more. And that was the time we saw Def Leppard the Hysteria Tour, August 21st, 1988, in Compton Terrace. I think it was in Chandler. Compton Terrace, a delightful venue. We always used to hear about Compton Terrace. That was the only time I ever actually went there and attended a show of any kind. But it was a popular venue when it was around, and then it was not. Good old days. I think probably I could tell another story another time of the MC Hammer concert we saw. That one doesn't have any hospital stays or it was a generally boring show. Somebody stole my MC Hammer t-shirt that I had gotten. There's also the time we went and saw Howie Mandel in the Round, and I don't remember what the venue was. I could look it up. Saw Howie Mandel in his St. Elsewhere days. So he was extremely energetic. And we saw, who else did I see? When I was still in high school, we saw those. We saw, no, I can't, there was probably one or two other ones. Oh, I saw U2, the Zoo tour. Was that what it was? That was in Tempe somewhere. So yeah, there was a couple of concerts. I haven't really been to any shows like that. You would think in Vegas I would probably see some residency show. If you want to see a show, it's probably going to be in Vegas at some point. But I really haven't gone to a concert in a very long time. So who knows what would happen if I did. And that's where I'm going to leave it. My voice has been all over the place for weeks now. That's just the way it is. The nature of the atmosphere in the greater Vegas area. I don't know what else to say other than thanks for listening. Thank you for joining me on this little tale, as every episode is. And that's it. We'll see you. We'll see you around. Thanks for listening as always. Don't forget to catch all of the other 137 episodes, plus episode 0 at the very beginning. All the stories are more interesting than this one today, but they're all true. So you get what you get. That's it. Thanks for listening. Take care. We'll catch you later. Next time, next week. Listen to my other shows. That's it. Bye.